Today we are working on Psalm number 3. Now there's a lot of traditional uses in psalm magic for Psalm number 3, the most basic of which is to conquer or overcome fears. It's also used to overcome things like migraine headaches and pain associated with the upper body, especially the neck and head. But one of the most important uses for Psalm number 3 is to overcome oppression and to get things working again when everything has fallen apart. The way that we work psalm magic is extremely powerful and very simple. We take the psalm in question and we read it out loud once all the way through without stopping. And then we take that same psalm and we go through it verse by verse, sometimes line by line, and we search for hidden occult meanings within the psalm. And by really taking our time and digging and searching for those seeds of magic in the psalm, we are doing some very profound work in that we are finding those seeds and we are planting them deeply into the fertile grounds of our minds, where they in a real way take root and grow and blossom forth and bear fruit after their kind. And that's exactly what we are going to do together right now with Psalm number 3. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. Selah. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of mine head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill, Selah. I laid me down and slept. I awaked, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God. For thou hast smitten all of mine enemies upon the cheekbone. Thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing is upon thy people. Selah. That's a nice brief psalm, but boy, there's a lot in there. So it starts out actually with a superscription before the psalm starts that says, a psalm of David when he fled from Absalom his son. Now this was added, almost all the scholars agree that this was probably added many, many years after this psalm was written. It says a psalm of David here, but it really means a psalm dedicated to David, the character in the Bible. Now, in that story, David made some really bad mistakes and was paying the consequences for some really bad mistakes. And his son took advantage of his downtime when he was paying those consequences to come and rise up against him. And so in the story, the character David was experiencing betrayal from his own son, who was after him, who was going to kill him or at least imprison him. So the reason why this is a nice superscription for this particular psalm is that it kind of sets it up. And remember, everything in the Psalms represents you. We don't think about these characters as being something that happened in history. So that character represents you. You know how it feels when you made a mistake and everybody uses it against you and they just rise up against you and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm human. Everybody makes mistakes, but geez, right? And then it just seems like the whole world is against you. That's a nice setup for what this psalm is here to help us with. And that is when you feel like your life has completely fallen apart, when nobody is there for you, when you don't feel like there's anything or anyone to turn to, this is a great psalm to come to. So it starts out with, Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? So the Lord represents Yud-He-Vav-He, the tetragrammaton, which is sphere number 2 on the tree of life, which represents that father principle. The prayer is right to infinite intelligence, and we have to recognize infinite intelligence, even though it represents on the tree of life, that masculine principle, in psalm magic it represents the entirety of what infinite intelligence is, which is pre-gender. So there is one source, one force, one substance, and one power in all the universe. Nothing can oppose it. Nothing can thwart it. And therefore, one with God is a majority. Nobody and nothing can oppose it. And it's important that you understand that when you are addressing the Lord in the Psalms, that you're addressing infinite intelligence, not some deity separate from you, but infinite intelligence out of which you are an extension. We're coming to this power by saying, how are they increased that trouble me? And you know what that feels like. And see, that's what I love about the Psalms, is the Psalms are not about positive thinking. The Psalms are not about saying, oh, everything's going to be okay when it doesn't feel like everything's okay. We're saying, no, everything is worse. Troubles are increasing. How are they increased that trouble me? The people, the situations, the everything. It's just coming in on me. It's all just crowding in on me. Many are they that rise up against me. I can't trust a soul. It just seems like everywhere I turn, somebody's out to get me. I'm so oppressed. I'm feeling so vulnerable in this world. And it's so liberating almost to be able to just say it and not feel like you have to have all that toxic positivity that says, oh, don't be so negative. No, this is how I feel. This is really how I feel. The evidence that is reporting back to me in the world of form is that this is all true. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. Selah. Now that can be people, but listen to that as that ego voice within your head. The ego wants you to not think about infinite intelligence, wants you to not turn to the solution. Because if you turn to the solution, then the conflict will be resolved. Then the problem will be resolved. Then you will find healing and all will be well. And so that ego mind within you says, ugh, don't even think about God. Don't even think about infinite intelligence. Don't think about magic or any of that. Nothing will help you. You are out of luck. You have reached the end of your rope. All is not well with you. And that's what your ego wants to remind you again and again and again. And then it says Selah. So it says, now stop and think about the fact that you are feeling this way. Really get a sense of what you're experiencing. Don't run away from this feeling. Don't pretend like everything's cool when it's not. You really get clear on the fact that nothing good seems to be happening for you right now. Then it goes into, but thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of mine head. Now, when the Psalms say a lifter up of mine head, they are talking about how you can change perspective from the things of this world to the things that are the truth. The vision of one world costs you the vision of the other, so that when God lifts up your head, and God can only do that with your permission, and that's what you're giving in this particular verse, is I want to see things the way you see things. I don't want to see the things that my ego is presenting to me. I don't want to see the things of this world as they are presented to me, because I know this world is a lie. So I'm not denying that I'm experiencing those things, but I am open to the idea that I can see things differently. And so that's what I'm asking you to show me, infinite intelligence, because there's no way I could see that on my own. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me. A shield meaning that you're protected. That's the thing that we ask ourselves when we're in these situations where it just seems like the world is calamitous for us. What do we do? Where do I go for protection? How do I even become safe? What do I do? And here it's very clear. The only thing that you can do is go to infinite intelligence, because infinite intelligence has you. Infinite intelligence has this. Now, if we decide that we want to turn our attention back away from infinite intelligence and not lift our head anymore and go back to seeing things the way they were rather than the way that infinite intelligence wants us to see things, we can do that. And that's up to us. And we can go back and have all these calamities again. Or we can allow ourselves to be shielded from all of this from infinite intelligence. But that's the only force that can truly shield us from these things, because that's the force that knows what things really are. Nothing in this world has the vantage point that infinite intelligence has. It says, but thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. My glory. So the glory is sphere number 8 on the tree of life. So the glory of God is the aura of God. But if you also think about sphere number 8 as being Mercury, it's also the intelligence of God, the instruction from God. So the glory of God not only gives you beauty and joy, but it also instructs you. It also teaches you one step at a time what to do. It's not, okay, well, at least my relationship with God is cool. So, I guess I can feel better that even though my life sucks completely, I have a relationship with infinite intelligence. No, infinite intelligence is guiding you and instructing you through glory, through sphere number 8, on exactly what to do and how to go and where to go and who to say something to and what to say when you get there, so that you can not only get out of this trouble, but be completely lifted up out of it, permanently lifted up out of it. I cried unto the Lord with my voice. Okay, we talk about this. When you cry out with your voice, that is you making the first move. And if you don't make the first move, God hangs out and waits for you. God doesn't come in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. I know that you're in trouble, but I'm going to fix it for you. No, that's not going to happen, because that is, by definition, an attack on you from God. God doesn't attack. But if you make the first move, if you cry out with your voice, in this case, and I'll talk a little bit about the voice in a second, if you make that first move, then you're not only giving your permission, you're asking for help. When you ask for help, help has to come in, because that's how God works. That's how infinite intelligence works. But infinite intelligence doesn't work without being asked. And that's why a lot of people don't know how to ask. And so they say, well, this stuff doesn't work because, otherwise God would have fixed it for me by now. Well, no, that's not how it works. God doesn't attack you. God doesn't just fix things for you. But if you ask rightly, if you cry out with your voice, then you've made the first move. Then there is a point of entry. There is an opening. And then God can come in and fill that up and lift you out of it and do all of the miraculous things that you need. So when we say, I cried unto the Lord with my voice, yes, you can use your physical voice, but we're talking about your spiritual voice. We're talking about that part of you which can create a change of vibration. When you go, with your voice, vibrations come out into the room, but you can do that with your soul so that vibrations come out into the aethers, and God responds to those vibrations. Your desire to have the change is the first thing, and then you call out or cry out with your voice, your inner being. You seek infinite intelligence, and then infinite intelligence responds. Infinite intelligence doesn't respond if you don't seek. And he heard me out of his holy hill. God always hears you. But God's holy hill is your holy hill. And that's part of the problem, is that we forgot that we live on a holy hill with infinite intelligence. That's where we live. And we are asleep to that, having a nightmare that we're living in this world. So God hears you in the holy hill because you're there with God. But God recognizes that you're asleep having a nightmare and that you are in distress and you need help. And then it says Selah. So it says to tell you to think about that now. Think about the fact that you're making the first move, that God already has this, that God already knows that you're safe, and now you're going to have God or infinite intelligence actually realize that for you, help you to realize that. I laid me down and slept, what we just talked about. I awaked, for the Lord sustained me. So I was sleeping and dreaming, and I had a nightmare, and everything bad was happening. Then I wakened to the Lord's sustenance. So the truth is, when you really do wake up, think of that judgment card in the tarot. When you truly do wake up, you wake up to the angel's horn right there, the trumpet of the angels. You wake up to all of the glory. You wake up to all of the host of heaven celebrating your awakening. no punishment, none of that nonsense that you think is going on anymore. You wake up to the truth, and the truth is that God is so pleased with you. Infinite intelligence is so happy with you and is so grateful for you. That's the Lord sustaining you. The Lord sustains you through gratitude, through love, through all good, all blessing. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. Now let's look at this in a couple of different ways. Remember, ultimately in the Psalms, people represent thoughts. So no matter how many thoughts in my mind are trying to convince me that nothing good can happen, that everyone's out to get me, that my life is calamitous, that it's only downhill from here, no matter 10,000 of those thoughts circling around my head, I'm not afraid of them. And I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it because those are just ego thoughts that are trying to set themselves up against me. Now, those thoughts can have reflections, can have counterparts in the physical universe as people as well. So even though ultimately the cause of those so-called real people are thoughts in your own mind, in your deep consciousness, they can also be people. And so that's true too. If you have people that are rising up against you, that have set themselves against you, that are oppressing you, and it can feel like there's nowhere to turn, recognize that there's also a counterpart in your own ego mind that has it set up that way. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's on the invisible realm and or on the visible realm. You're not afraid of them. Why? Because there's nothing to fear. Because one with God is a majority. If God is for you, no one can be against you. Not inside your head and not inside the physical world. Because if you have your mind stayed on God, if you have your mind stayed on infinite intelligence, nothing can touch you. Nothing can touch you. Arise, O Lord, save me. Now this is funny how we command God to arise. Arise, arise. like he's just, he's so lazy. But arise, O Lord, is just saying, I am acknowledging the fact that infinite intelligence is already very active in my life, but requires my permission, requires my participation. God can only do for me what God can do through me. So arise, O Lord, and save me means I am willing for that salvation to happen. I am willing for things to change. I am willing for things to be different. And part of being willing for things to change and be different so that, quote, God can arise in me is allowing myself to be wrong about things. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I want peace, I want joy, I want resolution, but these people are this and these people are that, and this is this way and that is that way. You can't have it both ways. You have to allow infinite intelligence to instruct you to see things differently and to give up your old ideas about what's going on. That's how arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, can happen. For thou hast smitten all of mine enemies on the cheekbone. Now, first of all, infinite intelligence doesn't smite anybody, doesn't hit anybody, but it can appear that way. It can appear that way, just like it appears like the darkness is being destroyed when you turn on a light. It seems like there's destruction, but the darkness was simply an illusion that occurred because the light didn't exist there, because the light was being blocked there. So any illusions of enemies that you have will be destroyed as a result of this work. So it can appear to you as though they're being smitten on the cheekbone, and it can definitely appear to the thought forms that they are being smited on the cheekbone. But on the cheekbone is very interesting, because when somebody hurts your cheek, it's damaged, and you'll always be able to see that scar. And so when you come back around to these ideas again later after this has been resolved, you're going to think twice about entertaining these old thought forms again. And the reason why is because you're going to see that scar. In other words, you're going to have the memory of what this really is. And those kinds of thought forms won't have the same power over you anymore because you've already taken care of them. Thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. Now, we want the teeth of the ungodly to be broken. Now, what does that mean? In our own minds, all the thought forms which have their counterparts in the physical world of all the manifestations, which are not of God, don't really exist. Now, when their teeth are broken, that means they can no longer talk to you and they can no longer bite you. They can't harm you and they can't convince you of anything. As we allow ourselves to have infinite intelligence's truth prevail, all these illusions and all of these lies come up and we see them for what they are, and they no longer have power over us, and we are no longer convinced by them anymore. And that appears in the psalm as them having had their teeth broken. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. So when salvation belongs to the Lord, that means that we need to go to the source of salvation in order to receive it. Now, what is salvation? People get so tripped up by that word. Salvation simply means the solving of the problem. Whatever your problem happens to be, solving that problem. So the solving of whatever this problem is comes from your connection to infinite intelligence, period. End of story. Nothing else. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be things for you to do in the physical world, but that's what that instruction was that was talked about earlier when it talked about, but thou, Lord, are my glory. So you're going to instruct me. You're going to teach me. You're going to show me one step at a time, anything that I'm supposed to do. And if I don't get that instruction from you, then I know I'm not supposed to do anything, or I'll get the instruction, don't do anything. Right? So it's not that you're just going to sit back and eat bonbons and let God do it. It's that you're not going to make decisions all by yourself. Now, maybe God will tell you, sit back, eat bonbons, and let me take care of that. That's fine, if that's true. But usually, there's plenty for you to do. It's just that if you make it up as you go along, you're probably going to do things that aren't helpful. But if you wait and listen and are guided and instructed step by step by step by step, not only are you going to get out of this problem, but any of the problems that you did go through, God can use them for something even greater. So not only are you going to get through this problem, things are going to be better than they were before you had the problem. So that salvation belongeth unto the Lord. That's the only place you can look for that salvation. Thy blessing is upon thy people. So the blessing is upon thy people from a magical point of view means that the totality of your mind is blessed. Now remember what happens with the blessings of infinite intelligence. The blessings come in and they enlighten you. And when they enlighten you, everything that is not like them disappears. So every thought in your mind, subconscious, conscious, superconscious, is now being imbued with the light of infinite intelligence. And therefore, you only can see the truth. And anything that is not the truth is shined away. And it's as if the problem itself gets shined away. Then it ends with Selah. So it says, think about that now. Think about the fact that everything is being shined away, everything is being healed, and anything that's not perfection is now being forgotten. It's like fog in the morning that just evaporates. So you just keep coming back to this psalm every single day until you get a sense of peace and certainty about what's going on. And when you get that sense of peace and certainty that everything is turning out just perfectly, then you know your spell has taken and you don't need to work on that thing anymore, whatever that was, and you can move on to something else. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.